we met in Philadelphia. You were living at what I only describe as the Bobby Cork house.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
how many bands were living there at the time in West Philly?
It was anywhere from 2 to like 4. Not even including like little, projecty things that happened there. You're talking about the place on Buckingham, right?
Yeah. You used to have shows in the basement there.
Yes, we did. They were awesome, most of them. Actually, funny story is we were supposed to play. Us and Bob Kirk were supposed to play with Lamb of God at the 4040 space.
Did you say Lamb of God?
Lamb of God. and Weed Eater. Okay, now this is like 2001, right? So these bands they weren't the big fucking rock stars they are today. Weed Eater, I think it was when Dixie Dave shot up his toe or something like that, stayed the bag on the tour, and then we said, hey, we got to, and the guy who was setting up the event never showed up to unlock the building. So we're like, fuck. And the guys from Lamb Guy were like, well, we should just go home. I was like, hey, you come play at our house. And then they, tried to get their SVT down our basement steps, and that was the deal breaker. That and the fact that, when you touch the microphone, you got shocked to shit. You just, they were at least that professional where they weren't going to fucking abide that,
That's crazy. Because around that time, I became familiar with Lamb of God, and Wally was on the cusp of turning really like super aggressive at that point, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, by that time we'd kind of already gotten there. Like 1998, I think, is when we just kind of got really mad about stuff, I think.
Yeah. So I remember having your demo and through various moves. It was like a green construction paper cover on a cassette, and I can't remember all the songs. I apologize, but Sugar Bomb was on there, and I thought kind of how out of place that one sounded, but then on to like Eric Clapton is Dead, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the shit.
Well, there was definitely a progression there. Like Wally was the result of 2 brilliant record label masterminds trying to create a band. Now, my band that I was in previously with our original singer and other guitar player, Catherine, she and I were in a band called Tall Man. It was Eric Victor from Creep had recorded us and put us out on a compilation, but also Jack Ball from Coolidge Records, put us on a split 7-inch Plow United, which really did well for both of us. Like, Tall Man, I think at one point we were like number 1 on college radio in Hawaii and New Hampshire. So, coast to coast we were, But that band broke up in like 94 and immediately like through a couple people, we got hooked up with a solid drummer. We didn't realize just how solid Mike was, but and Kevin Cooper, who was in a band with Jack and Brett from Coolidge Records called Sponge Guy. So they just kind of slammed us all together, and it was the flavor of the month. Everyone was doing that. Pop punk is a little glib, like melodic hardcore or whatever.
Yeah.
So we took it. We did our own with it, and that original incarnation of Wally, like we did that cassette, and then we went on tour, and I think we had enough for another album of those songs, but we were writing so prodigiously, and we got so like, that kind of music's fun to play, but it wasn't really challenging for us. So, Kevin and I were really into Black Sabbath, and then Mike and I were really into Rush, and then we kind of met in the middle with like Don Caballero and Drive Like Jehu and like all kinds of the weird, funky Miles Davis stuff from the 70s, the early 70s. And at that point, Catherine had split. So we had already started kind of skewing left a little bit by the time we went to record Eric Clapton is Dead at Studio Red in Philadelphia during the blizzard of '96.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So funny story about that record is two of my friends that I knew in college, and they were in other bands. They had started a recording studio called Minor Street Records in Westchester, and they were trying to work their way into studios in the city. So they applied for an internship at Studio Red, and now like there was the upstairs room where bands like Helium recorded, but then there was the little downstairs 8-track demo room, and they said you bring in a band and you do a 4-song demo, and then we'll. You can give them the recordings and use this for like like an audition tape sort of thing. So we went in, like it was, the blizzard of 1996 fucking just stalled the entire city, and it was February 2nd. I remember it was like a Monday morning or something like that. But we could all take off work because we were, not real serious about working. So we get down there and we load everything in the basement. We have to crawl over, like our drummer has to crawl over amps to get to his drums. It's a tiny ass room. And we knock out 4 songs in pretty straight order. And then, then Brian and Jason said, well, what do you guys want to do? I said, well, let's finish these songs off, but, we have a couple more. A couple more meaning, I think 11 songs or something like that. So we went and we ripped like the basic tracks through. And then like we went back and finished them at their studio, which at that point was kind of their house. And then we gave it to Eric Victor and said, here, this is what we want to do. And we were such assholes about it. Like, I was the asshole about it. I mean, like, let's, I want to press them on 12 inches, but master it at 45. Because, that way every time, no one looks at the label and says, they see an LP and it's automatically assumes 33. So they think something's wrong with their record. And then Chris Weller and I, Silk Screen, the covers for them, released like half of them, and it was only the two of us in his basement in his garage in Pottstown rather. So we got, even though we tried our best, there was inadequate ventilation. So so we got about half of them done, and then we decided to go to the bar. We each had 2 beers and then passed out. But that was a fun time. Like we kind of had formed our own identity at that point. It was nice to, when everyone else was sort of doing a very similar thing, like we just decided to get kind of weird with it, and along with that came some aggressive kind of stuff, like I don't know. It was a weird time, but it was a fun time,
Yeah. I mean, you played, of all places, in my hometown at a Rod and Gun Club, which was pretty fucking bananas for 2 bands from Philly at the time, playing in that small town with us, our band. But I remember, like, the small group of kids that were there, they all knew who you guys were already. Did you know that?
No. I mean, that was the 90s were all kind of a blur for me, to be honest. But what town was it?
It was Palmerton. But it was the town I grew up in. Okay. And there was Wally, Bobby Court, us, and I think the band was the Sun Chips.
I remember those guys.
And it was out like an outside pavilion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we did like a little weekender thing.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But like I remember, I still have pictures of you guys playing that show.
So we were 3-piece?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. And I want to say I saw you play at the house in West Philly, and Bobby Cork and Greedy Eucalyptus played that night.
Okay.
And I actually just spoke to Mindy briefly and picked up that 12-inch that they put out.
Okay.
I thought they were amazing. Like, there's just a cool bunch of cats in that band.
Yeah, Yeah, they actually I think I have a couple of copies of their 7-inch because Weller and I had a little distro going on for a while. Um, and so yeah, I have at least more than one copy of that. And I just saw Mindy at I saw her at the show that wound up being a memorial for Rich Genshak. Saw her and Kevin both, along with Greg Knowles. And then I saw her at a gig that was my friends from Westerly, Northern Liberties. They're playing at a hair salon in Bethlehem. And then I got to have a little conversation with Mindy there. It's,
Oh, really?
Yeah, like just, it's funny because, like I met her, I met all those guys like at Geek Fest in Kutztown, like 30 years ago,
Yeah.
It's just weird, I mean, people, it's nice to see they're not dead,
Dude, somewhere at one of those shows, it might have been the fact that Weller had a bunch of copies that were being sold at a show, but there was also a store somewhere up in Bethlehem that used to sell all like the local bands, like Walter Krug and stuff like that. And the Bouncing Souls did a split with the Bloodhound Gang. And like one band did Kids in America and the other band did Kids Incorporated.
Okay.
And I lost it. But that was also construction paper, and that was, of course, before those two bands got really huge. But like, I want to say Weller had those for sale for whatever reason.
That's entirely possible. Maybe the Bug Light Bouncing Soul split 7-inch. I think I might have had a copy of that or two for sale.
Okay.
Out of our distro. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I feel like we came up in like a very interesting time in that, when you're young and you're putting out the stuff, like you can press cassettes and records were super cheap to press and everything was recorded on tape because, Pro Tools was, before it existed, after it existed, like it was economically unviable for anyone to have. And then, right around the turn of the century, everything instantly flipped. Like you could press CDs for super cheap, but now like your records are incomprehensibly, expensive, and now cassettes are back, but in a weird sort of fetishistic way.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But it's super cheap to, you can download like open source software and record your demo.
Yeah.
Whatever. You can get some really good. I was messing around with some stuff in, like open source VSTs that are just like fantastic, like studio quality. Or, you used to be able to book tours and you'd spend hundreds of dollars sending out press kits,
Yeah.
On your phone, like, and long distance bills. And now all that's gone, but, gasoline is prohibitively expensive. You used to be like, oh man, like gas is $1.89 a gallon. We thought that was bad, but now that it's in some places pushing $3.50. That's it changed everything. Like you got old like not legacy bands, but like older bands like fucking. I did sound for DRI a bunch of years ago, and they traveled in a car, and they relied on other people to provide backline for them, which is cool if you have reliable people providing backline.
Right.
Like if you show up somewhere and some guy's like, yeah, you can use my drums, and like kick drum's missing a leg, he's got like one stand, like everything's all fucked up. Like you can't rely on that. And I don't know how to. Like I really miss traveling. I really miss playing. I miss playing shows. Period. But like,
did that end at COVID for you and the bands you were in?
Well, like I did a lot of touring, traveling years ago, and things just started to taper off. Eventually, we did with Sheena and the Nosebleeds. We did a couple weekenders, which is all we could afford to do because our drummer was also a teacher. So we made the best of it, and that was fine. Like no one wants to be gone for like a tour, like a real tour. I'd say that's at least 2 weeks, and trying to book stuff like Monday through Thursday just sucks. So you're killing time, and it's not cost effective. So yeah, after we did a couple little road trips, and then and COVID killed that band.
Describe what that band was like, because it was really, I mean, it was more jazzy in Prague, right?
We tried to work those elements in. It was great. We had a couple of drummers, and the guy that started off with us, who, you know, ducked out for a little bit and then came back. He was the real deal. Doc Culp is just like, he's played in a million bands, and he's a pro, and he's a marching band geek who made fucking good. You know, like, he's the marching band geek with like the DRI logo on his, tattooed on his leg. So we tried to make it. We tried to do like the Dave Brubeck kind of thing, in that, rather than having the odd times, like, where odd meters be abrasive, and deliberately confusing, wanted to try and make it seem a little more natural. And, we tried to make, honestly, as much as I hate to admit it, when people hear a song, they're listening to, like, the drums and the vocals. They really, most people that are consumers of music could not possibly care less about what's going on as far as, like, the tonal understructure that leads up to where the vocals go. But we, so we just sought to make that not boring. We didn't want to phone that shit in, So, we tried to ride that line. And there's some really, there's a record that's sitting on a hard drive somewhere that's never going to get released, and that's a bummer, But
why aren't you guys going to release that?
It's just the band's done, music's done, but like it's never gonna happen. But there is, like, we did a session at WXPN, and I'm very glad that we got the stems for the recording so we could remix it, because DJs aren't necessarily sound engineers,
right?
Engineers aren't necessarily DJs, so I get it, So yeah, we got all that stuff up on Bandcamp, and I don't think it costs anything. It's negligible if it does. But yeah, I feel like we were a really alive band, Like, I played the biggest show of my life with that band, and it was at the Laurel Hill Cemetery. We got a call from Dead Milkmen. They said,
"Oh, nice."
And the message was like, "Hi, I'm Rodney. I'm the keyboard player from the Dead Milkmen. Like, would you like to play with us in the graveyard?" And of course, how can you say no to that? So,
they play there once a year, right?
Yeah. And it's like they can get whoever they want to open for. So, and it's just they always keep it, someone local, and I'm, I feel like before Sheena played with us in the nosebleeds, like, we had reached a certain point, and we could not have gotten to that next little level, like that XPN session I was talking to you about, got shared on NPR,
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there's a video out there for that session with the the mix that they did, the audio mix they did. So it is what it is. But it was a wonderful time to be part of something like that, But it's very, very infrequent that bands can last as long as they do. Like, all these things have a creative shelf life, and if it's not your job, then there's so many other things in life that are distractions from just being a band. Like the guys in All, the Descendants. Like, when they had that house in Missouri, that's what they did. They practiced 8 hours a day, like it was their fucking job. And,
yeah.
And that's the best job in the world to have. But that would also imply a situation where, like, nobody has to leave to go to work.
Yeah.
And none of us have that luxury, really.
Yeah, that was, that being my favorite band, All.
Mm-hmm.
All specifically, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, but, like, you could tell, like, they were just even if you watch like up to date, like newer videos, like those guys are just like machines.
Yeah, yep. And I really love Always Revenge and Always Saves.
Yeah.
Like, I want the guitar solo in, I think it's Frog. Like Stephen Egerton, like he does some Greg Ginn kind of shit, but he does it better than Greg Ginn.
Yeah, he does.
He uses these modes that people just ignore, or these really interesting extensions and substitutions. But also, it's just ugly enough, you know. It's like he peppers it in, but like doesn't kill it. And it's fucking. He's definitely one of my favorites, and definitely an underrated guitar player. But you know, like they're all underrated musicians, you know.
Yeah.
Really, just that's like smart, but and not like they. I feel like later they got really poppy.
Yeah.
That stuff's easy to write.
Yeah.
But that early stuff where they were twisting a knife or something, man. They were really. My favorite Descendants song is actually Uranus, which is like the unreleased track. Like you couldn't get it on the record.
Oh, really?
Or the cassette on Descendants All.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I fucking, you know, there's really no vocals to speak of. But the music is fantastic. And it's aggressive and weird, but like, it's cerebral, you know. Like it's not just noise, and not just banging their guitar against the wall. It's calculated noise.
Yeah, that's what all would become, like that.
Yeah,
that group.
Yeah.
The reason that I actually we chat from time to time on Facebook, but I had Gringo Motel here at the studio, and Tom Shaponik says like, "Do you know Kit?" I'm like, "Kit? Like, how the hell do you know him?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he's like, I master some of his stuff," and I was like, "Really?" So I assumed you were doing new stuff, so I was like, "All right, I have to message him right away." So, I had no idea.
Yeah, Tom I was in a band called Slumlord after Wally broke up. This is like, you know, I guess we got together like 2004, 2005. Lasted till about 2009. And we did some demos and like 3 records, basically. Tom mastered our first record, which was recorded for free at the Death Star in South Philly, which is an awesome DIY recording studio. Like, you know, these guys from this label World Eater, Kevin, who's in Northern Liberties, and Gary, who's in a band called Bitch Slicer. They did it, but they're like, DIY doesn't have to mean half-ass. Like, so they did a fucking incredible job. Tom mastered that record, and those guys put it out for us. And then we recorded another record. You know Seth, right? From Pottstown, Seth Forgar.
The name sounds familiar.
He had a warehouse space in West Philly, which he established as a church, the Church of Divine Energy. So we went in there and did our next 2 records in this warehouse space, getting like really awesome drum sounds. And by the last record that Tom recorded for us, like he got it. Like, you know, kind of captured what we were all about. And then, you know, like everything else, these bands have shelf lives, so that sort of went with the way of the Dodo as well. But at that point, I was playing in like, it was something stupid. Like I had like irons in like 7 fires, you know. Like I was doing that, playing with a Fear tribute band, another band called Cracula that was, you know, this sludgy kind of psychedelic rock. And I think by the end of that, Wally had gotten back together with the drummer who would go on to play in Sheena Nosebleeds with Doc. And I was doing solo acoustic stuff, and then the Nosebleeds got started out of that. Someone saw me play acoustic and said, "You should have a band, back you up with these songs." So it was a pretty fertile time, and if the one, of course, I ran the risk of sort of not being focused enough on certain things. But when you have the energy and enthusiasm for it, like that's when you got to get it. Like I see too many. I was working with this guy who's in his 30s, and he's like, he's got a family, he's got property overseas, and one of his friends says, "Oh, you still working on music?" And he's like, "Well, I have it all on the hard drive, but I'll get to it when I have some time." Well, good on you for being safe, having your situation. I don't besmirch him one bit, but when are you gonna have the fucking energy and enthusiasm to do it? I as much as I would love to hop in a van and do whatever 2-3 weeks to a month right now, and I'd probably be okay with it because I know how to treat myself a little better. But the time to do it is when you're in your 20s and your 30s, and you don't give a shit. You're okay with sleeping on the floor or sleeping in a van or not sleeping. So yeah, fucking carpe diem. So because now I like being comfortable. I like having a nice bed to sleep in, and
Yeah, I know what you mean. Now you were doing sound in Philly, right? Where were you doing sound?
I started out doing when I was working at Nick's and the Khyber and the Balcony, which is upstairs at Trocadero. Mm-hmm. What else? There was a place called Upstages that was where the Revival used to be on 3rd Street. And where else? I wound up working at the Pontiac for a couple years after Nick's closed down, and that was nuts. That was the point where I eventually became the only guy that was working sound there, and the schedule was it was 9 shows a week in 6 days. So I had one day off, which was Sunday or Monday or whatever. But then, every other day I'm in there. Sometimes up to whatever 12, 13, 14 hours for a pretty crappy pay rate, and to be surrounded in an environment that's not conducive to healthy living. I had habits, but then around that time I picked up some really fucking bad habits. I made some bad fucking connections, but that's when I started doing my acoustic stuff when I was at the Pontiac, and I was kind of holding a mirror to what I saw down there. South Street was it's not it's not as scummy as it was in the 70s, the 80s for sure, but it certainly at that point wasn't the fucking outdoor shopping mall that it's now.
Right.
It was and I'm still an audio engineer. I just I started doing the corporate thing for a while, which is it has its own sets of positives and negatives. Like everything, man. I've done sound at churches. I don't catch on fire when I go in there. They're cool with it. And lots of educational stuff. I work at Lehigh University doing some AV now, which is
nice.
Yeah, it's I'm working at distance education, and so it's Zoom meetings. It's funny. Still doing little stuff like showing people, really, really smart people, how to put on a lavalier. Because they will take a microphone and they will tuck it inside their lapel, so it's just rubbing against their chest because they don't want anyone to see it. But yeah, and then I do stagehand work too. I work for Local 200 up here, Local 8 in Philadelphia, and lots of freelance stuff. So it's kind of nice because there's still some of this freelance stuff. There's a degree of physicality to it that keeps me moving because otherwise I won't. But if I have to unload and offload a bunch of trucks, whatever, build truss, build stages, put up PA, it's all part of it, and it's been a very interesting journey from point A to point B. But my whole foray into sound, my friends from the band Tall Man, Andy and Pete, were working at this club in Westchester called Rex's, and one day they said to me, "Hey kid, do you want to be can you come mix sound for this band?" And I was like, make sound for a band. Like, I'm never gonna do that. Fuck that. The sound guy's always the asshole. And they said, like it's like $40 and all the beer you can drink, and that was it. I was hooked. I said, okay, all the beer I can drink. Excuse me, I'm in. And the rest is infamy.
So, all right, what was a lot of people outside of Philadelphia or anywhere in the United States wouldn't know Pottstown and Westchester. I'm sure they would know Bethlehem was synonymous with Music Fest, and but Westchester and Pottstown they had a lot of great music there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Westchester was kind of an epicenter even before the whole Creep Records thing, happened. Like, it was a place where people would play. Like there's like DFW or YMCA out there or something like that. Like, you'd have the Pagan Babies come play and stuff like that. Bands from Philly, McRad always playing around there. And yeah, I mean it's kind of like these places they're close enough to the city to have some of that influence and be able to get in there, but also their own little enclaves where a certain culture can grow and create a scene all its own. That's pretty interesting. I mean, I haven't heard of any music coming out of Westchester lately, but I haven't really been looking for it, But it's like little places like that. It's for me, that was just before I moved to the city and I was living in Westchester. Like, it was cool, but you kind of you would play the same one or two bars, play house parties, and then that's it, the one thing that the Creep bands did is they started. That's when you had Book Your Own Fucking Life,
Yeah.
You start doing DIY tours because you really can't wait for the world to come to you when you're at that age, and you get to go out there and see how many other towns out there are just like Pottstown or just like Westchester. Like, it's any small college town, and there's always some really cool people there. Like if you go down south, you could wind up in a really bad place. But if you stick to to the little college towns, you're bound to find someone who's not a fucking Klansman,
Right.
Be honest about it. I had the first tour that I did. Mike Carr and I we played some place in Georgia. It was a pizza shop, and we rolled in, and it was what the fuck, man. And the show turned out to be really great. At the end of our set, we're like, yo, like, the drummer and I have glaucoma, and if anyone can help us with some medicine, that would be great. And this dude comes over, and he's kind of like stern. He's like, all right, you two, coming with me, just you two. All right. They and his buddy get us in their car, and he drives back to his apartment. Mike and I just look at each other the whole time. We're gonna die. All Pennsylvania plates on our car, and we're fucking Yankees, and they are going to eviscerate us and decorate their apartment with our fucking guts. And they did. They got us nice and high, and then they dropped us back off. But there can always be that moment, when you're kind of taking your own life in your hands, and you're really wondering if this is what they didn't do a drunk PSA about, hanging out some shady southern motherfucker's apartment, that's the real scare.
Nice. So there's a couple things before we wrap up, but two things I really want to know about, because Coolidge is now like a way bigger thing than it was in the 90s when it started. They started off doing comps and stuff like that, and now I want to say they have a record store, but they're also a recording studio and label. Is that correct?
Creep does that. I know that Jack and Brett from Coolidge have Brett has recording equipment. I don't know that he records other bands. I know he records. When I was in the Rusty Nails, he recorded us himself. But Eric from Creep has the studio and has a store downtown. I know that Coolidge has a website where you can find like the old Tall Man stuff, and plus all the comp stuff. Like these are guys that just really. It's now. I mean, now the physical media really doesn't mean much anymore. It sucks. I know these guys are sitting on boxes of 7 inches from the 90s. You just hope that you sell. Yeah, right.
I would buy them.
Okay, well, fucking reach out to those guys. It's you gotta applaud people who still persist under the model of selling physical media. It's not just a cool thing to have to look at, but also it's different.
It's a document.
Yeah, absolutely. I got the new Northern Liberties album, and the packaging on it is fucking phenomenal. Like, it's a whole experience, and it's worth, whatever you pay for it. It's worth $20. Same with, like, I got the last FOD record that came out, and it's, and I listened to it on the digital version, but, the wax is really the way to fucking hear it. And I'm not, there are obvious advantages to playing vinyl, and, it's got a sound reproduces sound like higher and lower than we can hear. CDs are meant to go from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz because that's the range of human hearing. Records go beyond that because they do, and they can. But of course, I don't want to fetishize it. Like, if I get fucking records, I'm gonna play them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put them in a frame and be like, oh, look at this fucking, like, who cares, man? Like, you can't take it with you, and chances are my cat's gonna scratch it up anyway. So, like, yeah, it's a thing, and it should be used just like any other thing.
I agree. So, what is I saw. If it was a message or that I saw a post that you were doing, like you were doing some new music.
Well, I've been. All right. So when I moved up here, and this was after Sheena Nosebleeds was still kind of happening, but it was on its way out. And I was moving up here, and I just posted something on social media, and Mike Clancy, who's been in a million bands, most notably Stillwater and Dragon Green.
Oh my God, those guys!
So I said, I'm moving to fucking Lehigh Valley, and he's like, bro, we practice in Easton. And now I have the back cover of the Dragon Green EP like tattooed on my leg. It's very painful because on my body there's no fat; it's just like bone and skin. But so I get up there and I jam with him a couple times, and it was pretty great. I actually was just down in my basement. I found I had tabs for all the songs, and I have songs that like no one else has heard by those guys. And Mike was very specific, like as far as like stylistic execution. Like, I don't want you to skip up the string. I want you to go up the neck, and that's what he wanted. And I always loved working under someone else's purview because it makes me have to, like, if it's your own stuff, you can do whatever you want. But like the discipline is important, and so. Once a week I'd go over there and it would just be great, man. Like, so fucking loud. I felt so bad. Like, like I'm practicing through a full stack and he's playing through 3 cabs just because he can and does, Now,
Stillwater was like a hardcore band back in the day.
I forget what the name of the band they were in. Was it Blindside or something like that? He and Johnny, I think. Johnny, the singer from Stillwater. Mike and Johnny were in that band. And I only heard of them. I don't think I ever saw them.
Okay. We played with them one time.
Okay.
In Allentown.
Well, that makes sense. Allentown's like the fucking hardcore epicenter up here. You ever listen to that Gorilla Biscuits record? At the end, they have like, it's just them like talking in a van and tape.
Yeah.
And they say something about on our way down to Philly, stop by to see those crazy Allentown kids or something like that.
Yeah. Well, Allentown was notorious for the the skinheads that would show up at the shows.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. What's that?
I didn't go to Gardens for that reason. I had long hair. So,
yeah.
And I'm like, man, I got pretty sick of that whole fucking the bonehead violence thing and like metal pits and stuff like that too.
Well, those boneheads, they like vanished off the face of the earth. I'm not saying they had a moral awakening, but they just disappeared after people started fighting back. They didn't want to show themselves anymore.
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend and I were at the Reverend Horton Heat show a couple of years ago. I think I know where all those guys went, dude. They just fucking threw their hair out and fucking got into rockabilly, man. Like, there was definitely at least a couple of swastika tattoos that were covered up in that room.
Oh, damn!
That's just conjecture, but I stand by it. But yeah, it's cool being up here. I'm way less stressed than I was when I lived in Philadelphia. Like, I'm also getting my life right as far as part of me not being the Dragon Green thing fell through because I needed to fucking work, and I couldn't put that aside, and I couldn't hold those guys up. It was wonderful being able to spend the time playing with them that I did, and I stopped playing in bands about a year ago, a little over a year ago, because of the time requirements, and I'm not going to say anything bad about anyone. People have different priorities and different availabilities. As corny as it sounds, man, like I looked at my cost-benefit ratio of what I was doing and what was coming back, and I just said, I want to be able to sleep at night and not, like, I don't know, just not have to worry about 3 other people that, like a team, where maybe there's links that aren't as strong as they could be. So I have, in this last year, as much as I've missed it, I've jammed with a couple of people here and there, but I'm not going to force something that fits. And I don't have the time to be in a band anymore. But I've definitely, it's a sense of peace that I haven't experienced, or since I didn't know about it. When I was like 15 and starting a band, like all of a sudden I'm taking on all these exciting new duties, and it sticks with you forever. The shit that no one thinks about getting done in a band, like, has to get done. And now that I'm not worried about it, like, I have a lot of time just to get my head straight, man. Like, when I was in the heyday of writing some of this music, like, I wasn't sleeping right, wasn't eating right, I think I was dehydrated for like 25 years. Like, my
really?
brain just kind of like, yeah, man, I should take care of myself. Like, my brain on the fritz all the time, and that's cool because you get some interesting perspectives which can show up in your music. But and again, I'm glad I got that out of my way when I was younger, because now, like, I want to be able to be an effective person at everything that I do. To be like lucid instead of being a fucking babbling madman, which I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at this and see how much of a madman I ain't.
Well, I before we go, I do want to say thank you, because I know you have a life like everybody else, so I do appreciate your time, and like, quite frankly, it's just really, really good to, like, the time and the little time I spent with you when I was in college means a lot to me.
Well, sure. I feel like we all brought each other up. Like, there was a support thing that wasn't. There were no ulterior motives.
No.
Plenty of bands I didn't like, but like, when you meet people of your stripe, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same kind of music, but like, we're just all on the same fucking page, and that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. And you had the coolest handshake in Philadelphia.
I was taught that handshake when I was 17-year-old. I met this guy from Canada, and he was a sharp skinhead against racial prejudice. Mm-hmm. And he showed me that thing. And I still, it's funny because, you know, when you work in this corporate or educational environments, and I don't like shaking hands anyway, so I don't do it that frequently, but when I do, sometimes that thing will just come out. And like, if it's an administrator or a teacher or whatever, you know, or a fucking preacher, like that can throw people off to the side if they're not expecting it.
No, but like people don't see it that way unless you spent a long time in Philly or any time in Philly. That like if somebody's going to shake your hand, well, that's a gesture that rarely happens, and like kind of in that scene, it happened a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I got you.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much, Kit.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm playing the first show since I stopped playing this Saturday. This Saturday? December 6th. Yes.
Okay.
I'm playing at Century Bar at 29th and Reed in South Philly. It's a free show. It's celebrating the 20-year anniversary of this amazing metal band that I'm lucky to call friends. Clam Fight, they're a bunch of Jersey guys. They're nice anyway. There's also a Train, which is fucking killer fucking technical rock, and my buddy's band Thunderbird Divine, they're playing as well. So I don't know. I'm happy to be back on the horse. It's just gonna be me and the guitar, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun because that's what it's all about. And I appreciate you so much for talking to me, Ryan, and getting the word out.
Yeah, man, totally.
Please join our Patreon page to get special behind-the-scenes footage and segments exclusive to Patreon, YouTube updates, also a sneak peek at what's coming next week, merch, and also services, free flash drive exclusively for segments in the band.